Welcome into King Wales album review party. Again, we are trying to get through this list of some of the Grammy nominations for the categories that, music we kind of listen to and know to try to give our thoughts on it. Because the Grammys are coming out on Sunday, the second. So it's kind of like let's go ahead and get this done. Like, kind of got to get it out now, otherwise we'll be waiting till next year.
I think we are
Um,
constantly underestimating how much work and time goes into these when this
oh
is not
yes.
like your full-time job. So,
Right. Like anybody that gets to do this full time, like I applaud you, and I do wish that was my life. Do wish that was our life because that would be fun just to sit around and talk about stuff that we love, and we'd be pumping these out. But
I,
we're
I
not
think
there
it's my
yet.
sitting and talking with Will might be like my one of my favorite pastimes. So, if that could be my job
You know
as
what's
well,
crazy?
oh my God.
Sitting and talking with Ty is one of my favorite pastimes.
Dude,
That's
you know what we should do?
insane.
We should start a
We should
podcast.
start a podcast. Oh, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree
I
more.
couldn't agree more. Anyway, what were we doing?
So we are going to be talking about pop. We're going to be talking about the pop and electronic category. If you're listening to this, that means you've probably already heard us do general, where we featured my good friend Kate Bankston. We also did rap, and then we did R&B, which featured my good friend Friday Jones on each of those. But for this one, it's just going to be the two of us as we go through the pop categories. And it kind of works out really well because both of us didn't really have like a really strong inclination, but as we were going through and deciding our picks, like the ones that I feel strongly about, Ty doesn't feel as strongly, and then he has some picks that maybe I don't have, so it'll create a good amount of back and forth in content for this one. And I guess we decided we're gonna end up watching the Grammys live when they come out on the second, because I usually don't watch them. But after going through these last categories, I'm like, you know what? I actually kind of passionately want some of these to win. So I guess I need to see if that's gonna happen. So yeah, I talked myself into watching the Grammys. So that's another thing that we're going through right now. But let's go ahead and dive in because if you're listening to this, I know you want to hear what we chose. So we're gonna go into the pop and dance slash electronic category. The first question is pop question. The first
First
category
question.
is
Wait, is this a test? I didn't study.
surprise. Yes, there are right and wrong answers on this. Right and
Oh,
wrong
okay,
answers,
good.
yeah.
Yes.
Um, the first is Best Pop Solo Performance. Nominations are Bodyguard by Beyonce, Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter, Apple by Charli XCX, Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish, and Good Luck Babe by Chappell Roan. Now, I haven't listened to every single one of these. I think, well, actually, no, I think the only one I haven't heard is Apple. I think it's actually the only one I haven't heard. So, um, I was originally going to choose Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter, and then I thought a little bit more about like what we consider for best pop solo performance. And again, if I'm thinking of performance, like I said, with R&B performance and with rap performance, I'm thinking more of the singer's quality, the vocalist quality, like either how deep their lyrics are or how much their voice is showed off in a certain song. And for like best song, I think I'm more leaning towards production, right? So like one is more the vocal performance, kind of like in a movie, like one like your production sets could be really good, but the acting is really bad. Or you could have really great production sets, or you could have really bad production sets, but the acting is phenomenal, right? So that's kind
Mhm,
of the difference to me between performance and just best song. So if I said
mhm.
best pop solo performance, I actually will say Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish. I don't
Really?
necessarily. Yeah, yeah. When I heard that song, it's not, and I'm not necessarily going to say that like she had a better vocal performance than Sabrina Carpenter on Espresso did, but I will say the instrumentation on it, the key that was chosen for it, it ended up complimenting Billie Eilish, I think, more than Espresso complimented Sabrina Carpenter. I would
Hmm.
maybe choose Please, Please, Please if Sabrina Carpenter had that on here, just because of all of the harmonies that she put into that song, which is not easy to do. And there's a lot of harmonies in Espresso, but it's not as much. There's more like vocal doubling. And again, the production on the track, like I think Espresso is probably the best produced track that came out last year. Like it and Not Like Us are like right there neck and neck for me as far as best produced track. But if I'm thinking vocal performance, which is what I'm trying to think of for best pop solo performance, I will say Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish. And I really don't have a snub in this category. I realized I didn't really listen to much. It's hard to define pop because pop just kind of ends up being like what's popular. You know what I mean? Like I don't really listen to much pop, but like it kind of just ends up being popular songs that come out. So I can't really say I have one for this year as a snub. So yeah, my dub will just be Birds of a Feather by Billie Eilish.
I'm with you that Espresso doesn't feel like it shows off Sabrina Carpenter's style or her capabilities as a singer
Hmm.
as well, or even necessarily like I don't think it's uh the best demonstration of what's like interesting about her music to me. To
Hmm.
me, it just felt like that's just a really catchy song.
Right.
Like that's where Espresso kind of starts and ends for me. Whereas like the album as a whole, I thought like Short and Sweet was a good album, and I think there are much better songs that would demonstrate that. I feel the
Like,
same way with Apple for Charlie XCX.
mhm.
That doesn't really of like all the songs on Brett. That is not the song that I would use to showcase what she can do. And I
Right.
think they're really poor choices, and that's what leaves me picking Good Luck Babe. Uh, for Chappell Roan because
Mhm.
I think like she that's a great representation of what she's capable of. And I think she's just a really talented artist. And I was
Yeah.
really impressed by Chappell Roan this year more than I was, say, Billie Eilish or Beyonce or even Sabrina Carpenter. Like she's
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Understandable. Um, yeah, and I think I agree with you that like Apple may not have been like the best representation from that album, or like Espresso doesn't really show off what Sabrina Carpenter can do. Like if I was gonna choose another song from that album, Short and Sweet, I probably would have put Juno right there. And so maybe that
right.
technically is my snub if I said, but like I probably would have put Juno as the song on that album that to me really showed what she can do with her voice. Um, but again, I don't know if that necessarily if I would have picked it over Birds of a Feather. But like that's kind of the best like categorization I have because you're right. I don't think the song Espresso it's not made to show off Sabrina Carpenter's voice. It's made to get stuck in your head.
It's an
Um,
earworm.
right. But Birds of a Feather and Good Luck Babe, it's made to show off the voice of the singer, and so I think that's why for this category, they, those are the best choices. I think. Did you have a snub
Mhm.
for this one or not really?
No, and I think actually for the entire like all of these categories, I was looking
Mm-hmm.
through, I would have to do much more digging and for me to even find a snub
Right.
here. And I think that's representative that the things that moved me the most in these categories were ones that got nominated. And things
Yeah.
that I would have added were things that are already here. So I truly don't
Mm-hmm.
think there's any true snubs from
Yeah.
me across the board under these categories.
Yeah, when I was going through like what we listened to this year, even like I was looking like, okay, well, like what did we review this year? Because maybe that will help me decide like if there's any snubs or anything like that. And I was like, I
Mhm.
don't really, I didn't listen to much pop music, and the what I did hear of it, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't that impressed by it this year in 2024. There are
Mhm.
some things that like really stood out to me, but there's other things that just I don't know, like Ariana Grande's new album. A lot of people talk about it and say it was like one of her best works and everything, and I'm just not getting the same feeling. Right, like might be one of her best works, but I don't know if there's actually an Ariana Grande album that I really do like. Like I really like The Way, the song featuring Mac Miller, but I think that's kind of it.
Mhm.
So anyway, moving on. Best pop duo performance on this one. I don't have a snub or a dub. It felt wrong for me to choose one of these as my dub because I'm like, I think I would just be choosing it because it's there. And like I
Yeah.
wanted to choose The Boy Is Mine by Ariana Grande, Brandy, and Monica because The Boy Is Mine is a classic song that I grew up on.
Mhm.
But I hated what they did with it. I hated it
Mhm.
because they like she did it in a new style, but it's just it does not feel like it works as a pop song. And maybe it's just because I heard the original, but I think even if I hadn't heard the original, I still wouldn't like it. So I'm just gonna defer to you
Well,
for this category.
do you have a suspected winner? Like, is there a song here that you think will win?
I think Levi's Jeans or Die with a Smile will win. And I think Levi's Jeans will end up winning. Um, because I think ever since it's a weird reason why I think that, but ever since 21 won over Lemonade, it feels like the Grammys feel like they owe Beyonce after she
Fair.
didn't win Best Album. And so I'm not saying that she doesn't deserve all the nominations that she got this year, right? But there's very few people that would say that Cowboy Carter was better than Lemonade. And
Mhm.
Cowboy Carter got way more nominations than Lemonade did, even in the other categories, even besides Best Rap Album. I mean, Best
Right.
Album.
Right.
So, and I feel like since then, like we've had a flurry of Beyonce nominations, and again for good reason. And I would argue that the Grammys do owe Beyonce because she should have won, same way they owe Kendrick because he should have won for Good Kid, Mad City. So that's
Mhm.
my reasoning why I think Levi's Jeans is going to end up winning because when you have a category where there's no clear winner, I feel like the Grammys will be like, well, I mean, there's a clear winner for you, but like for something that doesn't stand out as much, like the way Not Like Us is like the clear winner among all the rap songs. I
Mhm.
think they're just going to be like, well, we got to give it to Beyonce. So I feel like Levi's
Right.
Jeans is going to win. Any other, like, and before 2016, I would have said Die with a Smile would have won because of Bruno Mars. But now I would say
So
Levi's Jeans.
so Die with a Smile is what I think will win, just because I have had zero interest in seeing Joker 2. I have had zero interest in
It's
that
not
movie
good.
whatsoever. And this song, like, has been played so much. Like, it has far and away transcended like the orbit of that movie and become like it has its own identity. And it became incredibly popular that I think it will win by
Mhm.
that alone. But my personal pick is Guess with Charlie XCX and Billie Eilish because Billie Eilish comes in and she takes an already pretty great song and a great addition to Brat that Charlie added and just makes it even better. Um, what can I say? I love that album. Most of the picks, if it's Charlie XCX related, are probably going to take it this year for me because
Mhm.
I loved Brett so much.
Yeah, that's why it's cool to do the general category and then like look in individual categories to see how they kind of combine and like what songs were able to kind of break out of their category and get all the way up to general.
Yeah,
Um, and I feel like I don't know if Charlie X has ever been considered for album of the year or been considered for so many song and records of the year because she's all over the general category as well as the pop and electronic category. So I'd be interested to see. Um, I don't really have a way of like figuring that out. I'd have to like go back and look through all of them, but I'd be interested to
right.
see if that's true. I also think it's hilarious. I don't know if it's hilarious is the right word, but the way that Die with a Smile did so well and Joker 2 did so badly.
So poorly. Yeah.
So badly. And for good reason. People even said that like Joaquin Phoenix's face while he was promoting the movie looked like he knew this movie sucks, but I have to promote it because it's part of my check. So, yeah, anyway, moving on to pop vocal album. If you want us to hear more about Joker 2, you got to listen to our other podcast on the Blurred Wire if you want to really go into that one. But for right now, let's move on to best pop vocal album. Again, this one, I don't have a snub. The closest thing I could think of would be DeJesse Volume 4, but that's not a pop album. Um, Even like if we back in the pop duo performance, I was considering doing like Little Blue from DeJesse Volume 4 because I really like that song, but I don't think it's pop. Like I don't really know it's almost like bluegrass and like mixed with soul. So like maybe that song could be my snub for that one, but I really don't really think it's pop. So that's like the closest
Mhm.
way I could get. So with pop vocal album, I just have to go Short and Sweet by Sabrina Carpenter. And it's funny because like I've known her for a very long time.
I've
Yes,
noticed.
I know
Yeah,
Sabrina
you two are
Carpenter.
very close.
Yeah, a lot of people are just discovering her now this year. But I mean, I've been a fan of hers. Like I've liked songs that she's done for years, right? Like going all the way back. And so Short and Sweet really feels like she kind of put it together. Because if you listen to her music over the years, you can feel like she's kind of deciding not really different personas, but she's growing up. right? Like as we all grew up, like we go through different eras or different things that are important to us. And I feel like in Short and Sweet, um, I really like it because if you look at the evolution of her music, it's like, she's gotten to this point where it's like, like it feels like she knows exactly who she is and what she wants to be now. And that wasn't always clear in her music. And I think it's really cool to listen to. And I think it's also, she brings a lot of um, energy and kind of youthfulness to the idea of love, which I really like because, it's like she can still look at it from like that perspective of like, first falling in love or being really excited. And a lot of people can try to do that, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But I think, like, especially to me, the standout song on this album is Juno, because I love how like playful and I love the message of it, especially because um, for her, like Juno, like the movie itself came out around the same era for me, right? Like I was a kid when Juno came out. I think it was like 2007. Um, and being in the same generation, so it's like I kind of understand, right? Like what she's saying by it and the fact that it meant so much to the specific generation. Um, my so that's one of my favorite songs on there. I also love Good Graces. That felt like a classic throwback R&B song. Um, and the production on it and the vocals on it were very tight. And so yeah, this whole album to me ends up being really good. I like Taste the first way into it. We reviewed it as well in more detail. The only thing I would change is I would have made Espresso number 2 and I would have made Please 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 number 7. And that's really the
Hmm.
only big difference I have on there.
Little
But
switcheroo.
little switch up there. But yeah, Juno is definitely my standout for this one. But yeah, this would be my pick for best pop vocal album.
Juno was a really great track, and I think it's a better. I'm with you that it's like a better representation of Sabrina Carpenter.
Hmm. And who she is.
Um, of this, I think this is something that I'm more so just wanting Taylor Swift to not win, more than I want any of the other artists to win per se. Because like when it comes to quality, like I feel like everyone else did a pretty great job. I didn't care too much for Eternal Sunshine myself.
Hmm.
Billie Eilish, I it was a little less memorable, but between Sabrina Carpenter and Chappell Roan, I would be happy with either of them winning. Myself leaning just a little bit more towards Chappell Roan,
Okay.
personally.
Yeah.
Something like just her as an artist is just more interesting to me than Sabrina Carpenter has been. Like,
Hmm.
and I think that's been more so from the stage performances that I've seen of Chappell Roan because Chappell really gets into character, um, and she puts on a show more than I think from what I've seen of Sabrina Carpenter.
Hmm.
Not that they're trying to do the same thing, but just when they're very close like this, I feel like it becomes an issue of, small edges here and there. And to me, the stage presence of Chappell Roan is what pushed her a little bit over the edge for me personally to make her that number one spot.
It's funny that you mentioned that you say like you feel like Chappell Roan gets into character
Hmm.
because what's funny is Sabrina Carpenter is the one who's actually an actor and
Hmm.
has acted in a lot of different TV shows and movies. But when
Hmm.
you're talking about artistry, Chappell Roan is the one that you're saying that gets into character. And so I think that's like an interesting dichotomy, just like in that. Because Sabrina Carpenter has been in some really good movies too. And she's acted, in, she's been acting for, I think she's still acting, in addition to
Hmm.
music. But I just think that's very interesting the way it's like, yeah, well, so the one that's not an actor is the one that I feel like really gets into character, which,
Right.
could be because that's the character, that's the only character that Chappell Roan is playing. And Sabrina Carpenter has played so many characters, it feels like she's kind of just playing herself now. So, very interesting dichotomy there. Yeah.
Maybe,
Trying to
maybe.
making it more interesting than it actually is. But
Right, reading it.
I just thought it was cool. Okay. So, moving on to best dance electronic recording. Choices are She's Gone, Dance On by Disclosure, Loved by Fortet, Leave Me Alone by Fred Again and Baby Keem, Never Ender by Justice and Tame Impala, and Witchy by Kaytranada and Childish Gambino. If you've been listening to any episodes, you know that I have no need for a snub on this one. And there is one dub for me, and that is going to be Witchy, which is, again, probably my song of the year personally. Um, and that's also like the main reason why I wanted to do this episode is so I could give Kate Trinana a Grammy for Witchy because like this is the one
Wait,
that
do
I
you
care about
have
the
it?
most.
You're gonna give it
Oh,
to him?
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually the one who's going to decide who wins and loses on each category. So,
Man,
no,
this
no,
this podcast really blew up overnight.
surprise. But no, like that's like if Timeless didn't come out this year and we didn't get Witchy, I don't even think we would be doing this category right now. Like that's how much I absolutely love this song and feel like it deserves to win best dance electronic recording because I fell in love with it and I love and I think it's also partially because like I was raised on R&B, so it's always got like a soft spot in my heart. But also because I was raised in R&B, it's very hard to impress me with R&B because it can start to sound the same, right? So like you have to really change things up in order for R&B to work for me. And so like a lot of K-Train artists' timeless album, including Witchy, could have been considered in a lot of R&B categories that we already did. But for Witchy, obviously it belongs in Best Dance Recording as a potential winner. But also for Witchy, I feel like it he takes a lot of those R&B roots and like you can tell that Kate Trinata was raised on R&B as well because that's in everything he produces. And this song is a perfect example of it. And I could not think of a more fitting choice for best dance electronic recording. So
It's
Ty,
great.
what do you have? Go ahead.
It doesn't make me want to dance as much as Never Ender by
Really? Okay.
Justice and Tame Impala. When I think of dance and electronic recording, I think of I don't just think of it like listening to it. I prefer to just listen to Witchy, but when it comes to like translating that in outside of the music and into like a social environment, Never Ender is more way more interesting and like to me personally. I think like just on the merits of listening to it, I prefer Witchy, but
Hmm.
specifically for the dance electronic side of it, like the setting in which I would and most of the time listening to this music is being out, and I would rather put on Neverender to be out towards, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And it's funny that you mentioned it because it's like for me, when I listen to Witchy, I have to stop myself from dancing. Like if I'm in
Yeah.
the elevator or I'm in Starbucks, like just picking up
Hmm.
my order, I have to stop myself and be like, float on. Like I just start doing two
Hmm.
step and I'm like, oh, I'm very much so in public.
I gotta stop here. Yeah.
Let me calm this down. So
Right.
yeah, but I think that's the right way to like in this specific category, I think that's the right way to decide between two songs. Like it's like if I like
Mhm.
one better, like a little bit better listening to it, okay, well, which one makes me want to dance more? To me, that should be the winner. So if that's how you feel,
Mhm.
that makes sense that that would be your dub for this
And
category.
and I think too this these categories we've been going through right now compared to our other episodes we've done, they feel the most uniform in quality amongst the choices
Yeah, there's not a
compared to other
standout.
ones.
Hmm.
Right. Like there's not just like, wow, why are half of the nominations even here? They're so misrepresentative of the genre. And maybe it's just because you and I are not as plugged into like the new age like dance or electronic scene. But
Yeah,
from where we're standing, like if Neverender or Witchy won, I'm gonna it just really feels like down to preference. Because
right.
like frankly, I'd be happy with either one of those songs.
Hmm.
Because like they both felt good to listen to. It's just one made me feel it a little bit more than the other.
But I think you're right. Someone that's really because like we're really plugged into like the well, not even so much the R&B, but we're really plugged into the
The rap.
rap and what's going on in
Mhm.
hip hop and everything. And so like obviously we gave very emotional and like takes on what deserves to be here and what shouldn't be here. So maybe someone who's not as plugged in will be like, this list is all wrong. And we're like, well, I don't know, just I was just picking what sounded good to me. So I
Right.
think that's a good point that you make there too. So moving on, we've got best dance pop recording. For this one, I don't have a snub or a dub. Honestly, I listened to all of these songs and I couldn't there was nothing for me to choose one over the other one, and I couldn't really get into them as much. So yeah, like I said, I don't have a, and I didn't listen to a lot of dance pop this year. And
Hmm.
I think that's also like kind of a slight difference too. Like again, being raised on R&B, like R&B is what makes me want to dance, not necessarily dance pop. So I think that's
Hmm.
why like I gravitate towards Witchy because not only does it have R&B elements in the chordal structure, it has R&B elements in the beat itself and the way that it lends itself to a two-step, which I was
Hmm.
taught to do from the moment I could walk as a child.
Right.
I'm
Right.
pretty sure before I could walk, my parents had my feet going like, all right, this is how you two step, right? Like this is how you. um,
Yeah.
so best dance pop recording. I'm gonna have to defer to you again. Who do you have for your snubs and dubs?
Well, well, we are both going with Von Dutch then. If you're going to me, I'm gonna count your vote as my vote, and we're voting for Von Dutch. There's other great tracks here. I really liked. Honestly, the only one that I didn't care for as much was "Make You Mine" by Madison Beer, but
Hmm.
"Yes and" by Ariana Grande is a bop. Not really dance pop to me. Like it doesn't feel unique. And I think that's the thing that to me gives Charlie XCX the edge is I think it's really easy for pop to become like a stale category.
Hmm.
And the thing that Charlie has been doing, especially with like the last four albums she's done, it's like she's taken a not necessarily that pop was dying, but that she kind of took a defibrillator to it. And it's like she jolted life into a genre, at least to me, that had become a little stale and repetitious and not really interested in as I have been in like decades prior. Uh, and I think Von Dutch is a good representation of that. But I think that Charlie's work in revitalizing it has kind of bled into other artists as well. I think in some
Hmm.
ways she is been has been inspirational to some artists in like giving them a direction that they can lean more towards and have validation that it will prove successful for them. Because I think a thing with a lot of pop is there's also a lot of intent to try to be commercially successful
Right.
alongside it.
Hmm.
And I think Charlie did a really great job at carving out, hey, you can be successful and be very innovative right now. And I think other
Yeah.
artists
Yeah.
are picking that up. And I think we're at a point where they are. Like, I really liked Got Me Started by Troye Sivan as well. Really great track. But I think because Brat was so monumentous this year, and I think Von Dutch is such a great track, it's got to take my pick.
That makes sense. And I think it's very interesting to see the way that Charlie XCX again has kind of broken out of the genre. Because if you asked me, compared to her and Ariana Grande, and her and Ariana Grande are almost in every category on this list. There's a couple, but they're at least nominated probably the same amount of times in pop and electronic. And if you ask me, okay, who do you think out of those two is going to be more nominated in the general category? I would have said Ariana Grande, right? But turns out Charlie XCX had more general nominations, far more than Ariana Grande. I don't even know if she was actually nominated in any of the general. So again, that shows that she was able to, kind of break free. I mean, not even break free, but has that appeal to even just to be considered for general consideration.
Right.
So now we've got Best Dance Electronic Album. And for this one, again, wasn't a tough choice for me personally. Got to be timeless. We talked about it so much when we reviewed it. Again, as a kid who grew up in R&B, like I'm a kid who grew up in R&B that fell in love with hip hop. I feel like Kate Tronado was a kid who grew up in R&B who fell in love with EDM and house music. And that's his style now. And like now he's blended the two in a perfect marriage. Not every song on Timeless works, not gonna lie. It's not like it's a, masterpiece. I mean, it is great, but it's not like it's perfect, hits everything out of the
Hmm.
park. But I think it's I don't know if this is his first time nominated or this would be his first win. But I'd be very happy to see him go home with Best Dance Electronic Album as well as Best Dance Electronic recording. Um
with Witchy.
with Witchy and Timeless. I'd love to see a double win there. I
Mhm.
think I would rather see Witchy win than see
Then
Timeless win
Timeless.
because I love Childish Gambino and I feel very, very bad that we didn't like Bando Stone as much.
Hmm.
And so I'm like, I want him to get a win too. And I feel like Witchy is more of a win than Timeless. And I think Witchy
Yeah,
is better than Timeless, right? I mean, comparing a song to an album is difficult, but if
sure.
I had to say
But
what's
in their own
better,
respective categories, you
right,
prefer Witchy for a song than Timeless as an album.
right. If I had to choose, I would choose Witchy. I'd probably listen to Witchy like instead of the album. Like I just listen to it over and over
I I gotcha. I
again.
think for me, I mean, Brat's on here. I'm choosing Brat,
Hmm.
but it I will say Brat almost feels a little too pop to quite be representative of what dance electronic albums can be. And I almost don't want to pick it because I think with music, there's like this, and with the Grammys, it feels like there's often this like unsaid asterisk that like vocals are necessary for a good like electronic album.
Hmm.
And I feel like Brat leans too much into the pop side that it takes away from the focus of the electronic side, if that is making any sense at
I
all.
totally get it. I
Be-
totally get what you mean. Yeah.
because like I feel like this is the category where like an artist like Charlie does not need dance electronic album uh for her to shine, whereas someone like Kaytranada, this is their specialty. It
Hmm.
feels like Charlie is here on like the strength of Brat, like from like the cultural phenomenon sense, more than what that album did for this very specific subgenre. And so, like, as much as that's like my favorite from this list, I think I might prefer seeing something like Timeless or even Talos take the win because
Hmm.
while I didn't care for everything on Zed's newest album, there's some tracks that I really like, and there's this there's a bit of this like overlap between those two artists themselves that I really appreciate. And it's like Taylor making these tracks for artists that they feature. And it's like this skill that like they both did do incredibly well with their own specific niches. And like on Talos, there's this really great track with John Mayer towards the end, Automatic Yes. And it's like so crazy good. And it's like
Hmm.
it's a pairing to me that like doesn't make any sense. And then I listen to it and I'm like, I actually really love this,
Yeah.
surprisingly. And you know, it was kind of a refreshing reminder of how good Zed can be.
Yeah.
But
I'll have to check
uh
that out.
honestly, again, this is a category that I really don't like. I wouldn't be upset if Hyperdrama won. I wouldn't be upset if 3 won. I personally like Brat the most here, but in just a weird way, I think it shouldn't win this
I
category.
I kind of see what you mean. Like it kind of feels like it should only like it not that like this category should only be producers, but the electronic aspect is like because like if I look at Charlie XCX's album, I feel like that is a pop electronic album. And Dan. It's tough because it's like, yeah, Charlie XCX's album, like Brat, like I definitely would say it's more electronic than pop, but also pop is such like a broad category. It can kind of go in so many different ways. But this one feels more like, okay, well, for electronic, like house DJs and stuff like that, you know, you competing with someone who's artist singing over similar instrumentals that are electronic, it's kind of like it's not like you got to compete, but it's kind of like apples and oranges in the same category, right? Because it's like, is it about the instrumental or is it about the vocals? Or like if I have an album that has instrumentals on it, like Kate Renata's does, and vocals, like how do you compare one against the other? And so I kind of see what you mean. How it's like it fits in the category, but like it also doesn't. So it's like, what do you
I
do in that
wouldn't I
sense?
wouldn't say it's the representative for it, but like yeah, like be a nom here, but just don't win it. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Well, I gotta see it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yes, that brings us all the way to our last category already. I say already, but this episode is actually pretty long because we had, we always say like, oh,
It's
it's
the
not gonna take that
catchphrase
long.
of the show. It's wow, this took longer than we thought.
Yeah. So again, best remixed recording.
Mhm.
I have to say, I don't have a snub or a dub on this one either, because to me, in order for me to consider like a remix recording, and it's probably like my own like logical fallacy in myself, but if I'm gonna say give something a Grammy for the remixed recording, I either have to say it's as good or better than the song is remixing, right? Like I can't look
Mhm.
at the remix and be like, this is a downgrade, right?
Mhm.
And out of
Right.
all the songs I've heard, like I understand what David Guetta was trying to do with Bar Song. I understand what Mark Ronson wanted to do with Espresso. But to me,
Mhm.
comparing those to the originals, those are downgrades. And I can't
Mhm.
say, okay, you deserve a Grammy when, in my opinion, you made the song worse. Like, and I mean,
Yeah.
some songs are just good and you can just leave them the way it is. And the point of not remixing is not necessarily to put something in a song that's not there, but it's kind of like to add your own spin on it. And I understand all that, but I'm like,
Mhm.
I can't in good conscience be like, yes, you win, even though you made the song that you're remixing worse. So I don't have a snub or a dub for this category. If
Mhm.
there's anything that you feel like deserves a dub or a snub, let us know.
Uh, I really liked Alter Ego, but
Okay.
the Kitchenada remix, mostly for the fact that Doechii is an artist that I really love from this year,
Hmm.
and Kitchenada is an artist that is so great at like crafting songs to fit a certain singer or a rapper. I want to see Kaytranada make a Doechii song. Like I want Doechii, I need Doechii featured on Kaytranada's next album. And this felt like a bit of a teaser for that.
So if
It's
they win a
also
Grammy, it can happen.
it could happen. It's also a category that I personally don't feel like I have much of a stake in as well.
Hmm.
Like I really don't hold high value to it. So I don't mind just giving it to like, oh yeah,
I
the
like
idea
these
of a
artists. Yeah.
I just like these artists together.
Hmm.
Because like I didn't even really care for the Von Dutch remix. I like the original more
Hmm.
than even though I do love Von Dutch, the original that Charlie XCX made, I I'm just gonna give it to the two artists I want to see match together, and hopefully they'll win a best single or best song later down the line together with Kaytranada and Doechii.
Hopefully, so if they win a Grammy, like you should, like Kate Renata should write, like if you guys give us a Grammy, I will make this song with Doechii. That way, you and all the other fans can like write in and be like, they have to win so they can make a
They
song
have to
together.
make it and get my vote for sure.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, so this was the pop and electronic category. Like I said, going in, we were like, well, we don't really have as much to say, so we'll just go ahead and knock this out real quick. 45 minutes later.
Two
This is
hours later,
our every single time. I don't know why we kid ourselves at this point, but it's kind of the fun of the podcast. And if any listeners are like, "Oh yeah, yeah, this one's going to be short." Sure, guys. Sure.
hmm
So yeah, so um this is our review for the Grammy Snubs and Dubs on the pop and electronic category. Let us know what you thought. If you think our takes are horrible and flaming piles of crap, comment that and let us know because we want to know what
hmm
you thought about this category, who you think should have won, and who you think shouldn't have won.
hmm
And keep track. We'll try. My friend Friday gave us a good suggestion about trying to do a Grammy reaction video with everyone that like guest starred. And so if we can figure out the timing, we will try. We will
We're gonna try to
try.
do that.
Yeah, because that would be a lot of fun to be able to talk about, um, what, and like I'm actually gonna watch the Grammys now. Like I wasn't going to before, but after doing this and like my emotions got involved doing this. So I'm glad we did this series. And you'll have to just tune in Sunday to see if who we want to win ends up winning. So yeah. Thank
Fingers
you guys so much for
crossed.
joining us. Yeah, keep those fingers crossed. And like I said, let us know your thoughts, and we will see you next time on King Wales album review party. And also, I should note, someone commented and left an album for us to review. Again, the Grammys are coming on Sunday, so right after this, we are going to get back to reviewing albums, and we will review that one soon, and I will put it out and I will send it to you. Just wanted you to know if you got to this far, we did not forget, and we will get back to reviewing albums as the podcast normally does. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for joining.